And the reason for that is she was unavailable, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And it wasn't because Miss Jennifer did anything to prevent visits, did she?
Correct.
Okay. In fact, in September and October, we know she was unavailable because she was in jail, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that you mentioned earlier with Miss Young that Anthony Daniel was visiting, that he was doing visits?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it in fact true that Anthony Daniel, from June 11th, 2014 to September 11th, 2014,
Which one?
Anthony Daniel, isn't it true that he couldn't have done visitations because he was incarcerated from June 11th, 2014 to September 11th, 2015?
I'm not sure of those exact dates, but I do know that he was in jail while the girls were in care.
Okay. See if this helps refresh your recollection. You need to look at both pages.
Okay. I don't even know what this is.
Does that refresh your recollection?
It does, but I see the dates on there.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that the time that you couldn't undress Layla and see her body was on November 2nd because of tooth problems, because of molars coming into her gums, correct?
Correct.
Isn't it in fact true that it was in October that her molars were coming in, isn't it?
Honestly, not sure.
Okay. Take a look at this and see if it helps refresh your recollection as to when Miss Jennifer told you that the molars were coming in and that's why she was sleeping on the couch.
She was never sleeping on it.
Well, laying on the couch.
She was laying on it.
She wasn't laying on the couch, okay?
No, ma'am.
What was she doing, running around? I thought you said that she was not, that you couldn't undress her in
She was
November.
asleep. But
She was asleep.
She was in the bed. She wasn't
It
on
wasn't
the
in
couch.
the couch, she
No,
was in the
ma'am.
bed. Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that the molars coming in and her being in the bed was in October of 2015?
No, ma'am. I mean, we discussed her molars.
But did you not discuss them in October?
Correct. That's when we discussed it.
Okay. So in November, you did undress Layla because it was in November, in October, that she was having the molars coming in, correct?
Correct. That's when we discussed the molars.
Okay. Now, I'd asked you earlier about South Carolina, and you said that you did not know anything about them going on visit to South Carolina.
That's not what I said. I said I did not remember that conversation.
Okay, well, let me see if I can refresh your recollection.
That's fine. Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they go to South Carolina?
Once again, I honestly don't remember that trip.
You don't remember it?
No, ma'am.
Did your notes reflect that they were going on a trip to South Carolina?
Yes, that they were planning on going on a trip.
Okay. And that it was for a mini vacation, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we had talked briefly about the girls, and isn't it correct, Ms. White, that you had said the girls were sort of rough and tumble, that they played hard and could be aggressive? Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember talking about the girls being active.
And do you recall that Millie had a forensic interview? She had several during the course of this July to October, November period. Do you recall what she said in her forensic interview with regards to Mr. Rosenbaum?
I don't remember her saying anything just about him, but that she enjoyed being in the home.
And didn't she in fact say that he was good to she and Layla? Mr. Rosenbaum was good to she and Layla.
Once again, I don't remember her saying anything specific about anyone, but that she did enjoy being in the home.
Okay. When you spoke to the doctor about the broken leg, isn't it true, Ms. White, I'm sorry, isn't it true that the doctor said it was consistent with falling in a hole and then falling in gymnastics?
No, ma'am.
It's not, that's not what he said.
I honestly don't remember that. We discussed the hard cast having to be put on and that she should heal normally. So I did ask about the healing process with her being so young.
So you don't remember saying that?
Correct.
No. With regards to Peggy Banks, there was a great deal of controversy about Miss Banks, wasn't there?
I don't remember there being controversy.
Okay. Was there
about
not
her.
complaints at both the Lamberts and the Browns that Millie would come back from visits with her great-grandmother, Peggy Banks, and that she would tell them that she didn't have to mind them? Isn't that true? She misbehaved.
Yes, ma'am. I remember some complaints about that.
Okay, and
About
this
her
was a
behavior.
problem, I'm sorry.
No, saying I do remember them having complaints about her behavior.
Okay, and this was a problem in the Brown household, in the Lambert household, and then in the Rosenbaum household, wasn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And Millie was originally visiting weekly with her great-grandmother, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that eventually changed, didn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you decided in conjunction with the facts that you were dealing with that she shouldn't have visitation once a week, correct?
That she shouldn't?
That she shouldn't. Didn't there come a time when you changed the visitation to once a month instead of once a week because of her continuing to tell Millie she didn't have to mind and Millie misbehaving every visit?
I don't recall that. With her visits being changed, that was to incorporate the parents.
But the parents, as of October, were not in the picture, correct? Did we just establish that?
was only 2 of the parents, but that was the reasoning for her visits being changed initially. That was the reason for the visits being changed.
The reason for the visits being changed was because a set of parents was visiting?
Well, we were trying to incorporate the parents into visitation.
Isn't it true that you ran into problems with Miss Banks telling Millie that if she stayed with the Rosenbaums forever, she won't be able to spend the night with her, correct?
I remember that statement.
You do? And in fact, you felt that this was misinformation on Miss Banks's part, don't you?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Okay. Did you not say that she was giving false hope to Millie? That Miss Banks was giving false hope to Millie?
In regards to what?
In regards to if the Rosenbaums were able to adopt her, she wouldn't be able to spend any time with her grandmother, her great-grandmother.
Sorry, are you asking, did I speak to her about that?
Did you discuss that with her?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you write in your notes that you felt she was giving false hope to Millie?
I'm not sure exactly what I wrote, but I know we discussed it.
See if this refreshes your recollection.
Okay, that's not what I stated to her.
No,
That
to
was
her, but
just-
that's what you
oh,
stated in your notes.
Yes,
isn't it?
ma'am.
Isn't it true that there were problems in all 3 households, the Browns, the Lamberts, and the Rosenbaums, with Peggy Banks discussing things she shouldn't with Millie? Isn't that true?
Yes, ma'am.
And you felt that that was inappropriate, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do about it?
Me and Ms. Banks did have a conversation about conversations she would be having with Millie and things that shouldn't be discussed.
And you wrote in your notes that her visits might be put on hold, didn't you?
Possibly. Not sure.
Would it help refresh your recollection to look at your notes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is that, it refreshes your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
And you told her that her visits might be put on hold if that continued, correct?
That's not what I stated to her.
But you stated that in your notes.
Yes, ma'am.
But is it fair to say you warned her that if it continued, her visits might be put on hold?
Possibly.
Did Miss Banks or Tessa ever call you up and say, my children are being abused in the Rosenbaum home?
No, ma'am.
Neither one of them.
No, ma'am.
And they knew how to communicate with you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when she called you at night, in the evening hours, you said that Tessa would call you in the evening hours. You addressed that with her, didn't you?
When who called me?
Tessa. Didn't she call you in the evening hours? You testified earlier that sometimes she called you in the evening. No? She never called you in the
No.
evening?
I mean, she would call to get in contact
Okay,
with
that's
me.
what I'm asking. Did she call
That's
in the
fine.
evenings?
She would sometimes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So it wasn't that they didn't know how to get in touch with you, correct?
No, they knew how to get in contact with me.
And you answered the phone, didn't you?
If I could answer the phone, yes, ma'am.
You got back to them, didn't you?
Yes,
if you
ma'am.
couldn't? At some point, visits with Peggy were changed from weekly to every other week because it was felt that Peggy was prompting Millie to misbehave when she returned home. Do you recall writing that in your notes?
I believe so.
In fact, Miss White, Tessa told you she would rather the children were with the Rosenbaums than with family because of the family drug use, correct?
I don't remember her saying for that reason, but I do know that she was okay with them being with the Rosenbaums.
Okay.
I don't remember her saying that exactly.
See if this helps refresh your recollection.
Okay, and with this isn't something that I wrote, but I do, like I said, I had the conversation with Miss Tessa, and she was okay with the girls being placed with Miss Rosenbaum.
Because she didn't want the children placed with her family because of drug use, correct?
That's what it says on here, but once again, I didn't write that, so I can't say for sure if that's exactly what she said.
Okay. Now, you were familiar with the home visit that was done of the Rosenbaums,
Of which home visit?
the Rosenbaum home,
Which home visit?
the initial home visit, the home that the behavioral folks did, Michael Sheets did
The home evaluation.
home evaluation. You're familiar with it?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that in that home evaluation, it was specifically mentioned that neither Joseph nor Jennifer knew CPR, correct?
I'm not sure.
Do you have anything in your file that says that these folks were trained in CPR or Heimlich maneuver?
No official document, not that I remember.
You don't have
Nothing that I
anything?
think of. I don't have anything, no.
And you can't refer us to anything where it says that they knew CPR or knew the Heimlich maneuver?
No, ma'am.
Now, when Jennifer called you to tell you that the child went to the hospital, how did her voice sound?
And she sounds scared.
Did she sound panicked?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was her demeanor when she got to the hospital?
She was upset. She was visibly upset.
And isn't it true you wrote that she was crying? You could hear her crying from the corner of the street, from the hospital to where she was getting out of her car.
Right, we were still on the phone.
Okay, but you could hear her crying.
Yes, ma'am, we were on the phone.
Okay. I'm asking you, Miss White, maybe I'm not making myself clear, what was her demeanor when she got to the hospital?
She was visibly upset.
And she was crying, wasn't she?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Millie told you that she and Layla were never spanked or hit, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you asked Millie, you saw the bruises on Millie, did you state that it did not look like a hit to you? Do you recall stating that it did not look like a hit?
No, ma'am.
You don't recall?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you recall asking Layla if anyone had hit her? Asking Millie if anyone had hit her or Layla when you were at the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall asking her if anyone had hit her or Layla?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was her response?
She said that no one had hit her or her sister.
And in fact, she repeated that no one had hurt her or her sister. Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, talking just briefly about Ms. Newman, who was the one who did one of the evaluations, isn't it true that that evaluation was done just as the children were going to the Rosenbaums?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that at the time, Miss Newman said, you know, the child is very young. I'm going to see if one of my coworkers can work with her.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that isn't it true, Ms. White, that the girls were being referred for therapy and a forensic interview? Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that you wrote in your notes that the girls were not around their parents because of lack of contact on the part of the parents?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. White, did Layla or Millie ever tell you anybody was hitting them, spanking them, beating them, or doing anything harmful to them?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have at this time.
Just a few follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Ms. White, I know it's a silly question, was Layla verbal?
Not completely, no.
Could she tell you whether or not someone was hitting her?
No, ma'am.
And Millie, when you would ask her about being hit, would that be when you were in the Rosenbaum's home?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you asked her on November the 17th about those injuries that you saw when you undressed her, where did she tell them that they occurred?
While at gymnastics.
Were you aware that her last day at gymnastics was November the 2nd?
No, ma'am.
So you knew that at the time, would you have issue with the statement that she gave that they happened at gymnastics?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I just want to back up a little bit, and I know we talked about this therapy thing for a little while. To your knowledge, when the girls were living with the Rosenbaums, were they seeing a counselor or a therapist?
Not that I remember. I know it was initiated. They had the first one, but I know it didn't continue long.
Where did they have that first visit with the therapist? Was that Ms. Tammy Newman that you're speaking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And would it help you to look at the records as to when they had the interaction with Ms. Newman?
That was actually, I do know, that was on the 14th of July.
To your knowledge, did they have any more interaction with Ms. Newman after the 14th of July?
She may have seen them once again, but therapy didn't continue.
So, let me ask you, Ms. Mull asked you about having referrals to therapy and to counselors. Is that what you're speaking of when they had initially referrals to therapy and counseling?
Yes, ma'am.
Did that therapy and counseling continue?
No, ma'am.
To your knowledge, would the therapy or counseling that they had interfere with them being able to have visits with their biological family while they were staying with the Rosenbaums?
No, ma'am.
It shouldn't have been a problem
Correct.
due to counseling.
Right.
And then I want to back up and ask you about daycare.
Okay.
On September the 3rd, where were you told the girls were attending daycare?
Bethany.
And let me back up. In regards to September the 2nd, the injury to Layla, where were you told that occurred?
I believe she had received the injury while she was at daycare from another child.
And to your understanding, what was that daycare?
Bethany.
Was it Turning Point?
I honestly don't remember Turning Point.
Before today, have you heard of the daycare called Turning Point?
Honestly, do not remember. I just think have I personally heard of?
No, I'm saying prior to today, did the defendants ever tell you that Millie and Layla were attending daycare at Turning Point?
Not that I remember.
What are the daycares that you recall they said that they were attending?
I remember Ola and I remember Bethany.
And did you notate that anywhere in your records?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever notate anything about Turning Point?
Not that I remember.
Do you need to look at your records again?
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No, you never heard of Turning Point from the Rosenbaums about the girls attending there?
No, ma'am.
And what program did they tell you they were attending at Bethany Baptist? What type of program did they tell you they were attending? That Jennifer Rosenbaum tell you the girls were attending?
It would be like a part-time.
Do you remember how many days that was?
No, ma'am.
If looking at something, would that help refresh your recollection?
Don't remember noting the days.
Okay. Would this help refresh
Yes,
your
ma'am.
memory? Would that help refresh you? If it doesn't, it's fine.
Okay, yeah, I don't have the amount of days, just that it was going to be part-time.
Part-time. And at some point, you called Bethany Baptist.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you find out about the girls being enrolled in?
And that they were not.
So when she mentioned on September the 2nd that Layla was hurt or injured at daycare, would that be true based on what you learned about their attendance at daycare? Would that be possible?
No, ma'am.
Now, Ms. Mull asked you about trips. Outside of what the defendants told you about trips, did you ever get any outside proof that they had gone on any trips?
No, it would just be a conversation between us because they would have to get approval.
Did you ever
Right.
see any plane tickets, any bus tickets, any train tickets about trips that had the girl's name on it?
Not that I remember.
Did you ever get any pictures from trips to South Dakota or Hilton Head or wherever?
I honestly do not remember. She would often send pictures, but I don't remember receiving photos.
And Ms. Mull talked to you about the girls being happy and excited to be at the Rosenbaums.
Yes,
Were they
ma'am.
happy and excited to be with the Browns?
They were okay at the Browns. They weren't there for a long period of time, but they were doing well there.
Did you ever, in your report, notate any signs of maltreatment when they were with the Browns?
No, ma'am.
How about the Lamberts? How did the girls feel about being with the Lamberts that you were able to observe?
Oh, they were doing good with Miss Lambert.
Did you ever have any signs of maltreatment when they were with Miss Lambert? Outside of the concern she brought about the defendants?
No, ma'am.
Now, the issue with Layla's leg and when it was broken. Do you know who you spoke to at the hospital?
I'm not sure. I can't remember if it was a doctor or just a nurse, but I remember calling that next morning to call in, see about the hard cast and when that would be put on and the healing process.
Did Ms. Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum ever voice concerns about paying for how they would pay for this treatment and cast for Layla?
No, ma'am.
Who would pay for that?
Their insurance,
Which was what?
Amerigroup.
Which is who?
Medicaid.
So there wasn't an issue about the defendants having to pay for anything?
Correct.
And Ms. Mull let me ask you, did you ever hear any complaints or concerns from the Rosenbaums regarding Millie falling off a ladder?
I don't remember having a conversation about a ladder.
What about Layla falling off a ladder?
No, ma'am.
Off of chairs on top of beds?
Not that I remember.
When you asked about any injuries to these girls, would it be fair to say there was school or just in the playground? Were those are those the only explanations you got for any injuries you observed on the girls?
Your Honor, I object to leading witness.
Response?
I can try to rephrase, Judge.
All right.
You testified that you received, I guess, explanation for injuries from daycare, from bathtub, from, I think, a scratch from a falling pool, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any other reasons that you were given as to why these girls may have injuries on them?
No, besides those, it was typically like, it's like just accidents, but those were usually those were the excuses given to me,
And
or the reasonings.
I want to be clear, on November the 2nd, did you undress Layla?
No, ma'am.
So if Layla had bruises on her body, would you have seen them?
No, ma'am.
And in regards to Millie on November the 17th, I think Miss Moll said you said something about it. You said it didn't look like a hit to you.
I guess I don't remember saying that.
Are you a doctor?
No, ma'am.
Do you have any training in child abuse? As far as the medical?
No,
and
ma'am.
what injuries to look for, what pattern bruising is, do you have any training in that whatsoever?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Nothing.
You stated to Ms. Young, Ms. Brown, Ms. White, you stated to Ms. Young that on the 17th, when you talked to Millie in private about what had happened, she said she fell off gymnastics.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that what she in fact said is that she didn't remember? She said she could have come from falling outside today when she was playing.
I don't remember that.
Well, let me show you a copy of your statement and see if that refreshes your recollection. You remember
Yes.
giving a statement on
Yes,
November
ma'am.
18th?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you agree that your memory on November 18th, 2015 is probably better than your memory today?
Yes, ma'am.
Take a look at this and see if it helps refresh your recollection. Does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Millie tell you she fell off gymnastic bars? In your statement, did you write that?
No, ma'am.
In your statement, isn't it in fact true that you said that it could have come from falling outside today when she was playing?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, do you recall giving a deposition in your civil case?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall saying at your deposition that you contacted the church and they said that they had been there, but they didn't remain at that location?
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's different than what you said here, that they didn't remain at the location, but you didn't add that they had been at Bethany Church, hadn't they?
I never said they didn't attend.
Okay, so they did attend. At some point in time, they did attend Bethany Baptist Church.
To my understanding.
And in fact, you confirmed that with the church, didn't you?
When I spoke with someone, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you satisfied yourself that they were in daycare at Bethany Baptist,
But they weren't. When I called, that's when I was told that they were not enrolled.
but they told they had been enrolled, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's fair to say that it's possible that something could have happened at daycare or at a birthday party or at church, correct?
It's possible.
And if they moved from one church to another and went to a different church daycare, it's possible that that injury could have occurred at that daycare.
It's possible.
Now, do you recall the forensic interview that Millie gave in May? Do you recall that?
I remember her having one.
Do you recall her saying she didn't like living with the Browns?
Honestly don't remember.
You don't remember?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Like, I know she had one, but I don't remember
Okay.
everything she said in that one.
If I may just have a moment. It's fair to say, Ms. Brown, that Ms. White, it's fair to say that Miss Peggy Banks never called you and said, my visitation is being held up because of therapy. She never called you and complained about that, did she?
I don't remember having that conversation with her.
She never said to you, why are the children in therapy? She never said that to you, did she?
Honestly, I do not remember.
You don't remember her saying that?
I don't remember having that conversation.
Okay. And isn't it true that Jennifer was not responsible for setting up visitation, was she?
No.
Thank you.
Just one more.
Yes.
As a caseworker, do you try to work around the schedule of the foster parent?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you have to talk with the Rosenbaums to determine if their schedule would work for visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
So would they have some input in visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Did they ever cancel visitation? Did the mother ever show up for visitation and the Rosenbaums had pulled out?
Not that I remember.
Thank you.
Nothing further from the city. She may be excused.
All right.
Yes, she would be excused.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You can step down, and you're excused. State will call us next witness.
State calls Dianna Fleming.
Right here, please, ma'am. Right through that gate, on around the side.
Raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can put your hand down and you can take a seat. And ma'am, can you tell us your name for the record and spell it?
It's Dianna, D-I-A-N-N-A, Fleming, F-L-E-M-I-N-G,
And Ms. Fleming, how are you currently employed?
with Bethany Baptist Church and Preschool.
And what is your role at Bethany Baptist Church and Preschool?
I'm the office coordinator. I oversee the records for the church and the preschool.
And are you the records custodian for Bethany Baptist Church?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the daycare program. How long has the program itself been in existence?
We're starting our 21st year in August. So we've been, like I said, over 20 years.
Okay. And is this a private daycare program?
It is a private daycare.
And what does that mean?
We're a ministry of Bethany Baptist Church. We offer classes for 2s, 3s, 4s preschool and a mom's morning out program. It is a private. We don't do any kind of scholarships or anything like that. It is a private school.
And how long, for the daycare program specifically, how long are the days for the kids at the daycare program?
It's a half-day program. It's 9 to 12, and then we do offer a lunch bunch from 12 to 1. But we have a religious exemption, so we are only allowed to keep the children 4 hours.
So you don't have any programs that last from the wee hours of the morning until late at night, correct?
No.
All right. Now tell me, what ages of children does Bethany Baptist Church have programs for?
We have a Mom's Morning Out program that starts from 9 months to 23 months. It's a 2-day-a-week program. Our preschools, we start at 2 years old, and we have 2, 3, and 4-year-old classes.
Okay. Do you have programs that run for, I think you mentioned the Mom's Day Out is 2 days a week. Do you have other programs that run on specific days of the week?
Other than the
Yes.
preschool, no.
Okay. Now, tell me, how does the schedule work for these preschool programs?
We follow the same calendar as the Henry County school system. We start a week later and we end a week earlier. So we usually start the second week of August.
Okay. And is there a fee to attend the daycare program?
Yes, there is.
Now, tell me, how is a child registered for the daycare program?
We do have a registration packet that the parents are required to fill out. Once they fill out the packet, we do have a registration fee because our classes are limited. So it's a first come, first serve. And once you pay that registration fee, then you are actually enrolled in the preschool.
Okay. And so if someone is enrolled in the preschool, do you have a record of that?
Yes, we do.
And what triggers you having a record for someone being in the program?
Actually, once they fill out the registration form and pay the actual fee, they're actually put into the system.
Okay. Now, do you also keep other types of records associated with the daycare program?
Yes, we have hard copies of the records and we have them in our computer system.
What about daily attendance records?
Yes, our teachers all have iPads that the attendance is marked daily. All of our classes have those.
And in 2015, how were the records kept for the daycare program?
Through the attendance on the computer.
Okay. And you said that they were on the computer. How long have they been computerized?
Probably 12 years.
And are these records something that you ordinarily keep during the course of your business?
We do.
Do you regularly keep them? Like, as in, do you do this for every single kid who comes into the daycare program?
Yes, we do.
I want to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 215. Sam, do you recognize State's Exhibit 215?
Yes.
And what do you recognize this to be?
These are our attendance records for people listed in our preschool.
Okay. And what time frame are we talking about?
2015-16.
Okay. And are these records that you yourself pulled?
Yes.
And are they a fair and accurate representation of the attendance records from 2015 and 2016?
Yes.
Did you make any modifications, alterations, or deletions to this document?
No.
Your Honor, at this time I move into Evidence States Exhibit 215. Ma'am, in reviewing these, you said these were the attendance records. Did you look specifically for specific names?
We did.
Were you asked to look for specific names?
Yes.
And I want to ask, when was the first time that you were asked to look in your records for possible attendance records?
2015.
Was it someone from the Department of Children and Family Services?
It was.
And did you look at that time?
I did.
And do you recall the names of the people that you looked for? That's okay. Do you recognize the name Millie Place?
Yes,
And is that a name that you looked for?
I did.
And did you find any evidence that there was any attendance records for Millie Place?
No.
Was there ever a registration record for Millie Place?
No.
I want to ask you about Layla Daniel. Did you also look for that name?
I did.
And was there ever any evidence of Layla Daniel attending Bethany Baptist Church?
No.
And was there ever any record of her registering for daycare at Bethany Baptist Church?
No.
You were asked to look for some other name combinations as well, correct?
I did.
Did you also look for those using the last name Clendenning?
I did.
Did you find any records of children attending under the last name Clendenning?
No.
Did you also check for Layla Rosenbaum?
Yes,
Did you find any records of any attendance for a child by the name of Layla Rosenbaum?
no,
Any registration for a child under that name?
no,
How about Millie Rosenbaum?
no,
I'll ask you both attendance. Did you find any attendance?
no,
And did you find any registration?
no.
Okay. Now, you've been there, how long have you specifically been with this particular program?
19 and a half years, be 20 years in February.
And do you remember a lot of the kids that come through that program?
Yes,
All right. Do you have any independent recollection of any children ever being inquiring about daycare at Bethany Baptist Church by any of the names that we just talked about?
no,
Did you ever process any paperwork, whether it was approved or not? Did you ever process any paperwork associated with those names?
no,
And what we're looking at in States 215, you said this was the attendance records of the children who attended.
right.
And can you just put it up here? No.
Well, it's the parents' names and the children. I ran it both ways.
Okay. So you ran, and this is for date range beginning when? And it's behind you if you want to look. Do you see the date range?
Yes,
And what's the date range?
August 2015 to May 27, 2016.
And in these attendance records, you did not find any of the names that we've already discussed, correct?
No.
You said you also ran it under the parents' names, correct?
That's correct.
And what names, was that Jennifer Rosenbaum
Right,
and Joseph Rosenbaum?
it was.
In any of the records that you reviewed, did you find any indication of them registering any children?
No, not in our records.
Is there ever any indication that the Rosenbaums ever even attended Bethany Baptist Church at all?
I didn't find any written record of that.
Prior to the Department of Children and Family Services contacting you, had you ever heard the names of Jennifer or Joseph Rosenbaum?
No,
Now, if a child had attended, in order for a child to attend any daycare class, do they have to be approved?
yes,
So the registration paperwork must be completed, correct?
right.
Is there ever a situation where a child is allowed to attend daycare prior to the registration being completed?
No,
Is this a situation where parents can just drop their kids off for the day?
no. We have a secure building, so they do have to go through the registration process. The first day of school, we actually take a picture of the child just so that our staff will know, can put those two together. And then the parents are actually given security tags. So when they pick them up, they have to show us that. If not, it's just a security feature.
Are you aware, and I know that we've discussed that Layla and Millie, part of the records weren't there, were you ever aware of a person by the name of Layla Daniel ever getting into a fight with another child at the daycare program?
No,
Now, are there ever situations where you require, let me ask you this. Is a birth certificate generally required for attendance at the Bethany Baptist Church?
no.
Are there ever situations where you may ask for more information?
If during the registration process we notice that it is a foster child or defects is involved, we'll ask for a copy of the temporary guardianship. If there's a divorce custody case, we'll ask for a copy of that just to, for our records, just to make sure that we do have it on file in case a non-custodial parent comes up or, it just depends on what they mark when they register the child.
Okay. And would a birth certificate specifically be required?
No,
So it would be more about the defects paperwork?
right.
Okay. Do you ever recall in 2015 a situation where a registration was on hold because of birth certificate paperwork?
Not to my knowledge.
I have nothing further at this time.
any written record of the Rosenbaums coming to your church. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge.
No written record, but people are free to come in and out of your church, correct?
Oh, our church, yes, ma'am. Adults, yes. Children, they have to be checked in securely.
But the Rosenbaums could have come to your church.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
wouldn't necessarily know it.
That's correct.
And interested parents can pick up packets with regards to the childcare. They can pick up packets and take them home for review, can't they?
Yes, ma'am, and they're online.
And they're online to
That's
boot.
correct.
And they can inquire and learn about how your program operates, can't
Yes,
they?
ma'am.
And they can decide to go somewhere else because their needs are not being met by a half-day program, correct?
That's correct.
And so you wouldn't have any record of that, would you?
No,
And you are not Turning Point Church, are you?
no, ma'am.
That's a different church.
That
isn't it?
is a different church.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Just one question. However, if they were actually enrolled in the program, you would have records of that?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Okay, anything else? Thank you, ma'am. You can step down, and any objections for this being excused?
No.
All right, and you're free to go. Sure. State will call us next witness.
State will call Stormy Hendricks.
Right, at your place, ma'am. Just walk all the way through that front gate. Make your way around this way. This way. Go ahead.
Ma'am, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Please lower your hand and state and spell your first and last name.
Stormy Hendricks. It's
And Miss,
S-
I'm sorry.
Did you want me to spell it?
Yes.
STORMYHENDRICKS.
And Ms. Hendricks, how are you employed?
I am the director of Ola Academy
Okay. And how long have you been the director of Ola Academy?
since August 12, 2012.
And does part of your duties as the director include being the custodian of the records?
Yes.
Okay. And the records at Ola Academy, how are they kept?
We keep them on a computer, and we also have printable roll sheets that myself or my assistant does, plus my teachers.
Okay. And can you kind of tell us briefly about Ola Academy's program?
Yeah, we have a state-funded program. We also do private pre-K. We have children that attend from 6 weeks to 12 years of age. We do before and after school also.
And is that do you have a full-time program there?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have a part-time program?
No, ma'am.
And if a child is enrolled in your program, how many days a week would they be attending?
5 days.
5 days, okay. Do you have programs during the summer months?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does that program look like?
It's basically the same. The only thing that is different is our Georgia pre-K students don't attend unless they attend our summer camp program, which is ages 5 to 12.
And how many days a week is that program?
5.
On average, about how many kids do you have at Ola Academy?
An average is about 121 to 125 every day.
Okay. And tell me about the registration process for Ola Academy. How does that work?
You have to come in and get an enrollment package, and you'll pay a registration fee in order before you can actually start, and we go over your paperwork, make sure everything's filled out correctly.
And once you've filled out the paperwork and paid your enrollment fee, what happens with that information?
Everything's inputted into the computer system, and then every week, of course, we print out new roll sheets that show us what new children are coming and all that.
Would your information be on those roll sheets if you have not completed the registration packet or paid a fee?
No.
And in regards, you said you're private funded and state funded.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
does that mean?
Georgia Pre-K is it's state-funded program that every year it runs from August to May. So it's through and it's also every student that attends the Georgia Pre-K, also the state has records of who attended and how many days they attend and so forth. Our private Pre-K is our Rebecca program. It's a little bit more flexible in hour-wise. You can come a little bit later than 8, and you don't have to attend every single day. But Georgia Pre-K, they require you not to miss so many days a week.
So if they're not Georgia Pre-K, but they're on the other side, I guess it's private,
Yes, ma'am.
are they still required to fill out that registration form?
Yes, ma'am.
Can a child attend Ola Academy for any amount of time without filling out that registration form?
No, ma'am.
And once they've done that, are they put into your system?
Yes, ma'am.
At some point in time, were you asked to pull your records in regards to the year 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall when you were first asked to do that?
I was asked to do it when, let's see, this is July, so I think it was the end of May
Of this year?
of this year.
Prior to that, do you know whether or not anyone else had inquired about the registration of Millie Place and Layla Daniel at Ola Academy?
No, ma'am.
And did you in fact pull those records?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me show you what's marked as states number 216. And I asked you to flip through that and let me know if you recognize that.
Yes, ma'am.
And what is states 216?
This is our actual attendance record where it shows the parents every day that they have to check in, check out. This is started in 2015.
And are those records kept in the normal course of business at Ola Academy?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you the person that keeps those records?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd ask the state's exhibit number 216 to get them into evidence.
Amendment 216.
Were you asked, what specifically were you asked to look for in regards to these records for 2015?
I was asked to look for the children's name by their last name and also the parent's name.
Do you recall the names that you were given?
I know the little girl's first name was Lila.
Layla? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you recall being given the name of Layla Daniel?
Yes.
Do you recall being given the name of Millie Place?
No.
Do you recall being given the name of Millie Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Do you remember being given the name of Millie Clendenning or Layla Clendenning?
Layla.
Do you recall getting any other names?
No, ma'am.
You said you were also looked up by the parents' name.
Just their last name. Yes, ma'am.
And was that last name Rosenbaum?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you go, what date range did you look at for those records?
I looked back from 2015 all the way up to 2018.
Do you remember what month in 2015 you began to look?
June.
Okay. And in pulling those records, did you review them?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you find any of those names that we've discussed here today?
No, ma'am.
To your knowledge, did a child by any of those names we discussed ever attend Ola Academy?
No, ma'am.
Did you show any registration for any parent under the name of Jennifer Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum?
No, ma'am.
Okay. To your knowledge, did Jennifer Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum have children enrolled at Ola Academy at any time?
They didn't.
Where is Ola Academy located?
Highway 81 East, McDonough.
Nothing further, thank you.
Nothing? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
May this witness be excused?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our lunch break. We're going to come back at 1:30. At 1:30, we'll be back in the jury holding room, ready to go.